Well, good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our African American Children's Book Festival live show. Tonight, we do not have a special guest, but we do have a special book. Tonight, we're going to be reading this book, Who Were the Tuskegee Airmen? And hopefully, you'll get something out of it. If you are watching, we're asking you to invite somebody else to join in with us. Tonight, we have a very, very special treat, and we want to be able to bless somebody. So, again, I'm going to give you a few minutes, get somebody on, join in, join in, join in. While we're waiting on that, we're going to watch the prompt.
Put your fist up.
Put your fist up.
Put your fist in the air.
Put your fist up.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Put your fist up. What we want, what we need, what we deserve. Freedom. Black power, scream it loud.
All right, y'all see me bopping and dancing. Love that song. If this is your first time joining us, we want to share with you that that song was created by one of my cousins, and two others are on there performing. So we want to give credit to Courtney Steele Productions and Casanova and Jacqueline Casanova Bowers and Jacqueline Hodge for that wonderful, wonderful theme song, or there's not really theme song, it's soundtrack for Courtney Steele Productions. So again, as I said, tonight we're going to read Who Were the Tuskegee Airmen. If you subscribed, you registered, you definitely want to stay on because we do have a treat at the end if people are coming on tonight. So we're going to give them some opportunity to. In the meantime, I want to talk about why we're doing what we're doing. And so this is the second annual African American Children's Book Festival, and we are trying to promote Black literacy. And here's the reason why. Only 9% of books just 2 decades ago featured children of all colors. So not just African American, all colors. Now we have about 25%, but that again includes all colors. And we still do not have in 2020 enough books where the main character is an African American child or youth. And so we want to make sure that we are supporting, again, African American literature. So tonight we're going to read Who Were the Tuskegee Airmen. And this book is by Sherry L. Smith. And this is a Hugh HQ book. And so it's about history, your headquarters for history. Who were the Tuskegee Airmen? January 20th, 1945. A plane was not going to make it back to the airfield in Italy. U.S. Airman Larry Fletcher shivered inside his B-24 bomber as it limped through the skies. World War II had been raging for more than 5 years. And in late 1941, the United States had joined England, Canada, and other countries to defeat Nazi Germany and its allies. B-24s played a major role in winning the war. Fletcher's plane, however, had been hit while dropping bombs on a Nazi airbase in Austria. 2 of the engines were out. The bombing doors in the belly of the plane had jammed open. The wind was roaring in at 60 degrees below zero. Fletcher had already lost a boot trying to unstick the doors. Now he was afraid that he might lose his foot to frostbite. The plane needed to land soon, but where? Down below, the Italian coast was fast approaching. Fletcher and the rest of the crew scouted for a safe landing area. It was the co-pilot who found their best hope. He spotted an airfield, but it was one that didn't show up on any of their charts. We really were expecting it to be a German field, because why wouldn't it be on one of our maps? Fletcher recalled. If that were true, the pilot and the crew would be taken as prisoners, but there was no other choice. The pilot carefully brought the plane in for a landing and saw that it was no German base. The runway was lined with American planes. Splashes of crimson paint marked with P-51 Mustangs as red tails. The fighter planes were famous for protecting American bombers in the skies. The Red Tails had saved Fletcher and his crew on more than one bombing mission. As another crewman put it, they were lifesavers. Fletcher and his crew were so relieved. They went out to greet the approaching soldiers, eagerly to finally meet the Red Tails face to face instead of in the air. What they saw was the surprise of their lives. These are all black guys, Fletcher remembered thinking. It was a complete shock. Why was it so surprising to see black pilots in 1945? Fletcher was a white guy from New York. His entire crew of 10 men were white. The only black people Fletcher had ever seen in the Army were cooks and waiters until now. The Red Tails weren't just any combat pilots. They were the famous Tuskegee Airmen. They were the first airplane pilots of color in the U.S. military. And then there's a definition that says military means the armed forces of a nation. But to Fletcher and his all-white crew, their existence was more secret than the atomic bomb. Chapter 2. By the end of 1939, World War II had broken out in Europe. The United States had not been involved in the fighting yet, but the military wanted to be prepared just in case. So the Army had started the Civilian Pilot Training Program, CPTP, at many colleges and universities. Civilians are people who are not in the armed forces. The CPTP was created to teach young Americans how to fly planes. If the country joined the war overseas, there would be more pilots ready for battle. But not everyone could join the CPTP. It was for white people only. In 1925, military reports said that black men were not as smart or brave as white men. The belief was that black people couldn't learn how to fly airplanes, but that was completely wrong. Black people had been flying since 1917. An African-American pilot named Eugene Bullard joined the French Air Force and fought against Germany in World War I. He won several medals for his bravery. In 1920, a Southern woman named Bessie Coleman went to France to learn how to fly. She became the first African-American female pilot in 1921. Coleman returned to the United States, where she gave lectures and flew in air shows across the country. She wanted to raise enough money to start a flying school for African Americans. Unfortunately, in 1926, she was killed in a tragic airplane accident before that dream was achieved. 3 years later, the Bessie Coleman Aero Club was founded in Los Angeles in her honor. There's some information in here about Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws. In the first half of the 20th century, black people were segregated, kept apart from white people in all sorts of ways, especially in southern states. Black people could not live in the same neighborhoods as white, eat the same restaurants, or go to the same schools. There were signs in shop windows that said for whites only, and even separate water fountains. The rules were known as Jim Crow laws. These laws carried over to military. Black soldiers lived in separate barracks from white soldiers and ate in separate mess halls. White soldiers could command black soldiers but Black soldiers were not allowed to command white soldiers. Black people were treated as second-class citizens and soldiers. The name Jim Crow came from a silly, clumsy character in music shows in the early 1800s. Jim Crow was supposed to be a Black man, but was always played by a white character in Black makeup. The character was meant to poke fun at and insult Black people. In 1964, the Jim Crow laws ended when the Civil Rights Act was passed by Congress. In May 1939, two men named Chauncey Spencer and Dale White flew an airplane from Chicago to Washington, D.C. They wanted to encourage other Black people to become pilots. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. If you're watching, whether you're watching in live right now or you're watching it in replay, please put in the chat or in the comments, have you ever heard of Dale White or Chauncey Spencer being airplane pilots in the 1930s? Had you ever read that in a textbook, in a history book when you were in school? In Washington, they met with a senator named Harry S. Truman. Truman would become the president of the United States in 1945. Truman saw the rickety old airplane the men had flown. He said, "If you guys had the guts to fly that thing from Chicago, I've got the guts enough to do all I can to help you." Harry S. Truman was true to his word. Later that year, Congress approved 6 civilian pilot training programs for Black people. The most famous of these programs was the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. And then the end of this, it talks about the Coffee School of Aviation. I'll read this. The Coffee School of Aviation opened in 1938 in Chicago, Illinois, to teach Black people how to fly. Some of its graduates later became Tuskegee Airmen. Cornelius Coffee took his first flight when he was about 13. Wow. Put that in your research. He was 13 years old flying, a Black man. A barnstorming pilot came to town. Barnstormers were stunt pilots. The white pilot asked Coffee to board the plane so he could have some fun at the Black child's expense. On the ride, the pilot threw the plane into spins, rolls, and nosedives. He did his best to scare Coffee, but Coffee loved every minute of it. The pilot was impressed. "He told me I should think about flying," Coffee told a reporter. However, he had trouble finding a flight school that would teach Black people. So he and his friend, John Robinson, built their own airplane using a motorcycle engine and taught themselves. Willa Brown knew Coffee and Robinson. She too was bitten by the flying bug. 4 years later, she and Coffee opened a pilot training school where he always put one white and one girl in every class of 10 students. I wanted to prove to our government that whites and Blacks, boys and girls, could train together. So yes. So I see somebody says, "I didn't hear it in school, but I learned it in college." Yes. Thank you for sharing that. You know, it's very important for us to, again, teach our children now, and not just our children. We can teach ourselves. As an adult, I've learned more history than I did in all of my years in school. I learned a lot in college because one of my, well, I'm going to say I got a minor in it, but I almost had enough to have a minor in African American studies. And so I took a lot of those classes when I was in college. And so that's how I was able to learn a lot and just gleaned a lot. And again, did a lot of my own studying. So we want to make sure that we are sharing with our children very, very important African American history and just good literature. And so this is a great book. We're not going to read it all. I just read excerpt to you. And again, it's a young novel. And so we want to, we're having, different books, of different types. So we have picture books, we have story books, we have historical books. I got longer, a young adult books. We read Stamped to You a couple weeks ago. And so we're trying to do different things because we want to make sure that we are encouraging through literature. And so if you enjoyed this book, share it. Share it with someone that has children or, again, even adults. This is how I learn a lot of history. I have grabbed a lot of children's books to help start some of that conversation, that dialogue, and then go into more history. And that's why it's so important for us to make sure that we're disseminating this information. And so if you have not done so, we really want you to register for our African American Book Festival. It is very, very key. This event is being held on September 19th from 12 to 3. If you have not, you definitely want to. All right. And so we have a couple comments. We have Willie Jackson saying sharing is a must for our young Black children. Very much. They have to know, and not just our children. All children need to know, but especially our children. If they are of African American descent and they don't know their history, then that's on us. We have to, as the elders, it's ours. I've been an educator for almost 30 years, and I haven't seen it, again, enough in the school systems. And that is okay. But guess what? We need to make sure that we do it. And so we can't just rely on the educational institutions. We have to make sure that we're doing our part too as well. So the question is, culturally affirming books are out there. Do you own them? And I just seen, we have one of our guests is, yes, I just published a book to inspire my nieces and my daughter. Great. We appreciate that. And that's going to live with them and go with them the rest of their lives. If you all are tuning in for the first time and don't know who I am, my name is Bridget Jackson, and I am the author of Panther in the Sky and Purple Heart Highway. Both of those books were inspired by real life things. And so Purple Heart Highway is a tribute to veterans. My grandfather was in the U.S. Army, and he received a Purple Heart. And so it's a fictional book. My grandson is the main character, and he never met Pops. But Pops actually got a Purple Heart. Carter's curious about the Purple Heart. And then something happens. You want to know about it? You have to get the book. And then I have Panther in the Sky. And Panther in the Sky is a tribute, an honor to my uncle, Defense Captain Mark Clark, who was slain in 1969. And it's to honor his founding of the Black Panther Party in Peoria, Illinois, where he started the Free Breakfast Program. The Free Breakfast Program served thousands upon thousands every day in 40 different chapters across the United States. The one in Chicago alone, they served, I think heard somebody say one time up to like 5,000, meals. And so very, 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 very important that we continue to share that information and share that legacy. And so we appreciate our people that came on tonight. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. We hope you got something out of it. Tomorrow we have another book that we're going to be introducing and sharing. Please go back and look at some of the other ones if you have not. And again, if you haven't registered, please make sure you register, because you have the opportunity of winning some really, really great books. And so we want you to get those. So we want you to register. So one more time, I'm going to show you the promo so you can see what's in the actual packages. Over $500 worth of books that we're giving away.
Put your fist up.
Put your fist up.
Put your fist in the air.
Put your fist up.
Yeah, yeah.
So some great books in there. The last set of books that we're giving away is valued at almost $165. Great books. So our first set of books really support the idea of dreaming for children. Our second set of books have the thank you, Casanova. Our second set of books talk about change agents. And then our third set of books our second set of books talk about being resilient and being able to resolve through things. And then our third set is about being change agents. And so great books for anybody to have in their library, but you must be registered. And we are going to cut off the registration in about a little bit over a week. So we're not, letting people register up until the day. Now, anybody can join in because it's going to be live streamed on YouTube, live streamed on Twitter, and live streamed on Facebook. And so all of that information is on our Ubuntu Press Facebook page. So you can get all of that. But we need you to make sure you register. You really need to register. All right. Courtney Steele is saying, love it. Thank you. He is the mastermind behind that wonderful song, Freedom, that's behind our promo. And so if you are on Facebook, you can hit him up, Courtney Steele. He's Courtney Steele Productions, phenomenally talented. And we appreciate that. And as well, Casanova Bowers is one of the rappers that you hear on the song. Again, really great. We appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Again, we want to make sure that we are culturally affirming our children and other people's children through quality leadership. And so please make sure you share this information. Make sure people register. And if you would like to donate any books to the kids here in the city of Flint, we have a separate program that's going too, where we are putting libraries in the homes of children who cannot afford to do it, and their parents can't afford to do it, but they really love to read. And so we're trying to do that. You can go on mykingdominfluence.org. There's a donation page, as well as on ubuntupress.org. There's a donation page. $3, $5, any amount helps. Anything. If you want to do a full library, that includes a bookshelf and books to go on it, $200 helps start that and everything. And we have some high quality books. We're not giving, cheesy stuff, but we also have paperback and we have hardback. And this is one of the paperback books that we put in the homes of children. So again, a great read. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you share it with someone else. We greatly appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. We couldn't, again, do this without you, and we greatly appreciate you. So go right now, share this link, have somebody else register tonight. We have over $500 worth of gifts that we're going to be giving out. And so we really want people to be able to do that. All right. So I will appreciate you all. We have one more comment that just came in. From our founder of Kingdom Influence. He says, register, please. Yes, he wants to get all of these books out of his home. We have just books and books in our home office, and it's just been amazing. It's been great every time the postal carrier or the UPS driver drops off more books. We're so very excited to be able to bless families. And so please register. You all have a good night. Thank you for joining us, and we love you. As we go out, we're going to do that song one more time. I love it. You all have a good night.
Put your fist up.
Put your fist up.
Put your fist in the air.
Put your fist up.